let me see. I'm getting a notice that I'm we have a couple different so um, well, I'm not, cancel. Okay, so we're in this leadership series, and the first week we talked about focus. Last week we talked about relationships, and today we're going to talk about commitment. And the more I read and studied about this, the more excited I got about just what I was learning, and hopefully I can convey that to you guys as we jump in. And we are going to talk about commitment. When I started reading this chapter on commitment, well, first let me start with a quote that it started out with. And here was the quote that went along with commitment. It says, "People do not follow uncommitted leaders." So if people get a sense that we are not committed to the cause, to the vision, we're going to have a hard time attracting and keeping people on task. So people do not follow uncommitted leaders. Commitment can be displayed in a full range of matters, to include the work hours we choose to maintain. So basically our work ethic. Can people see our work ethic? Number two is how well you improve your own personal abilities. So people are watching when we're constantly getting better, we're reading books, we're going to seminars, we're digging deep, we're becoming better at our craft, at our skill. What happens is that people, that communicates commitment to them. And then the third thing is our personal sacrifice to help other people. And so those are the three things that they talk about: our work hours, our personal development, and our personal sacrifice communicate commitment to other people. And so when I read these things, it kind of begins to it kind of makes me reflect inwardly and say, how am I doing in those three areas? So anyway, this chapter starts out on a story of Michelangelo. And so he said from birth, he felt like his greatest strength was that he was a sculptor. But if you remember, the Pope asked him and commissioned him to paint all the paintings on the Sistine Chapel. I had no idea. I guess it shows that I must not have paid attention in art appreciation. It took him 4 years to paint all that he painted on the Sistine Chapel. And it said that a lot of people were watching him, and they knew his true love and true giftedness, or he felt his true giftedness was in sculpting. So they felt sure he was going to basically ruin his career by turning the Pope down. But instead, he accepted the challenge, and then he committed to that challenge. For 4 years, he laid on his back and painted. And it went on to say that it really was almost 4 years of torture, that he said he finished it like at age, I think 37, and he said he felt like he was 67. But he started it, and he made that commitment because he saw the need and because he was asked to do it, and he did it anyway. And what happened over time was that he created a new way of painting, and it was called, I guess this shows my lack of knowledge, but it was frescoes, and that it was kind of a new way of painting in that watercolors were seeping into the plaster, and then it would kind of seep out and make these beautiful, beautiful paintings. And what they went on to say is, even though he would not have considered that his greatest ability, it like totally transformed a lot of the painters of that day because of the techniques that he developed because of that commitment. And when I think about, many of us are drawn to this Juice Plus business, not because we consider ourselves these great salesmen, but if I asked every one of you, no one would say they were drawn to this business because I'm a great salesperson. Would anyone say that? Probably no. Everyone probably, usually I hear the opposite. I'm not a salesperson. But what we have to realize is, and I love this saying, there's a book called Good to Great, and it talks about commitment can take someone who maybe is good at something. Michelangelo was an excellent painter. He was a good painter, but he felt like his strength was in sculpting. But because of his commitment, he went from a good painter to a great painter. And I feel like that is the same for the truth for us on this call today. We may be good at communicating with people, getting people interested in the Juice Plus product, but it's our commitment over time that we move from that good category into that great category. The question is, how committed are we? And the more committed we are, the quicker we're going to see that transition, that shift from good to great. And so I just keep thinking back at Michelangelo and where he made that shift from good to great because of that commitment, because of that sacrifice. And so I'm going to share with you my screen, and we're going to jump into these. What does it mean to develop in that area of leadership when it comes to commitment? And first and foremost, it starts with a heart commitment. And here's a quote I want to read from the book. It says, "Some people want everything to be perfect before they're willing to commit themselves to anything." Does that sound familiar? I don't know how many times I've heard people say, well, I'm not that good at speaking about Juice Plus. I'm not I'm lacking in this area. I'm lacking in that area. Every time that thought runs through our head, and I guarantee it's running through all of our heads in one way or another, I want you to go back to Michelangelo's thought process. He thought his strength was in sculpting. But when you say his name, I don't know. I always go to the Sistine Chapel paintings, not to the sculptures. And so I wanted you to think about, some people want everything to be perfect before they're willing to commit themselves to anything. But, and here's a big but, commitment always precedes achievement. We don't achieve and then we become committed. We've got to make that commitment, that sacrifice first, and ultimately what happens is that achievement. So that starts with a heart decision. You know what? I don't feel like I'm this great salesperson or I'm this great leader, but I want to be. I want to get out the message of Juice Plus. Now more than ever, it's critical that people hear in my sphere of influence, hear from me. So I'm going to commit to, and we're going to talk a bit about what are we committing to. But first, we got to be willing to commit, even though maybe we don't feel like we're qualified yet. We're going to commit to the process. The second thing is commitment is tested by action. We can talk a big game, but when it really matters is when we actually take action and do it. It says it's one thing to talk about commitment. It's another to do something about it. The only true measure of commitment is action. So we can say we're committed. We can talk about wanting to build and grow a business. We can talk about reaching many people and getting the message out about whole nutrition. But true commitment is flushed out by our actions, that day in and day out. How much do we invest into this business? And it's not so much from a time standpoint, it's more of a day. Like I would take a partner who invests an hour a day in this business every single day and never lets up than someone who may work it, 5 hours a day for a week and then set it down for 2 or 3 weeks. And why is that? Because we lose that momentum. So that commitment of every day, touching your business every single day. Then the third thing, commitment opens the door to achievement. it's over time, that commitment. And there have been times when I'll feel like, man, I don't feel like my business is growing at the pace. I should be so much further ahead. But then if I sit down and I kind of look back at where I was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's like, wow, I haven't seen that growth because it's been incremental. But when you compare it to a couple years ago, you're like, holy cow, that commitment, that daily commitment of touching my business every day has made such a big difference. And you're achieving way more than what you recognize you are. I think we expect way more growth in the beginning, and we way overestimate the growth in the beginning of this business when we start really putting forth effort, but we way underestimate what can happen over time. I was sending, I've been up and back and forth to Ohio with, which most of you know, being in the hospital with my brother, being with him, and I met a nurse there and started talking to her about Juice Plus, started talking to her about the business. So I was sending her a follow-up text. And so I wanted to, I think I had talked to her enough about the product. Now I want to bring her into, I think she'd be a phenomenal partner. So I was thinking about how do I want to bring her, pull her in to this vision of what she could do with the Juice Plus business. And so I looked at my PVC report and I ran the numbers. You guys, we as a team, our gross sales, we are projected to do $5 million this year. Our team, Team Extreme, all of you guys, $5 million in gross sales this year. That's like, you know, I know Chick-fil-A, it's in the Chick-fil-A world. That's having a large Chick-fil-A. That's what a large Chick-fil-A store will do in a year. That's how big, that's how many sales we do, you guys. So I shared that with her. And you know how I came up with that? Look at your PVC report and multiply it by 12. That's your gross sales for the year. I'm going to tell you, if you want to be inspired, do that. See what your numbers are. I had no idea we'd hit that level as a team. And so, okay, I'm getting off track here. But what I'm saying is 20 years, that's been incremental. But it's been that commitment day in and day out that big things happen. And so don't underestimate where you are now, where you've gotten to, and do not underestimate where you can go with this business, you guys. So commitment opens the door to achievement. All right, so here's 3 things I want to challenge yourself. So I want you to literally grab a piece of paper and I want you to doodle some notes or some pictures or whatever to kind of sink in your head. When I think about commitment, what do we have to do to ensure that we are consistent and committed to this business? And number 1 is we have got to measure our activity. And I remember this as a financial planner. When I would meet with a brand new client, and first and foremost, it doesn't matter how much you make in the financial world. What matters is how well you manage it. I had people who'd make $500,000 a year and still be going into debt because they couldn't pay for everything. Is $1 million a year enough to live on? Oh my goodness, yes. But if I'm not being financially sound with how I do my day-to-day, and if I'm not committed to tracking and watching what I'm spending my money and reviewing how I spent my money, it doesn't matter how much or how little I make, I'm going to miss the mark. And the same holds true for this business. If I want to build and grow a substantial income stream with Juice Plus, if I want to have substantial impact in my community when it comes to whole food nutrition and help people on their health journey, I need to be measuring how I'm doing that, how I'm going about that. And you've seen this. This is just a simple piece of paper. You can do it however you want. I know people do it on a spreadsheet. I know people just have a notebook. This little form, I print this form personally out every week. I make a plan. And then I've got a group of about 4 other partners who I take a picture of it and I let them know, here's my plan. And at the end of the week, here's how I've done. You have to have a way that you're measuring your activity. And first you've got a plan, and then you've got to track it. And you need, then the third thing, which we're going to go back to it, is that we have to have someone who's going to hold us accountable. We can say we're going to hold ourselves accountable, but I'm telling you what, when I'm showing somebody, here's what I said I was going to do, and here's what I actually did, I've got to explain why I didn't get them all done. But I'm telling you, it makes me pay attention. Here's my new plan for the week. I did part of it last night and I finished it this morning. So do you, and I want you to write yes or no, and if the answer is yes, write down, do you have a way to measure your activity? Are you planning? Are you tracking it? And are you reviewing it at the end of the week? Measure it, measure it, measure it. It's not going to get done if you're not somehow making a plan and tracking it. Then the second thing, that when it comes to holding yourself accountable to this commitment piece, and I thought this was hilarious, is publicize it. One way is, having someone that holds you accountable and you're showing it to them. But I love this. It says, use the Edison method. If taking the first step toward commitment is a problem, try doing what Thomas Edison did. When he had a good idea for an invention, he would call a press conference to announce it. Then he'd go into his lab and invent it. Make your plans public. You might be more committed to following through on them. So he made it public. So however that is to you, however you need to make it public, whether it's with an accountability partner, whether it's in a Voxer chat like I've got going, that we're holding each other accountable and we're showing our plan and showing how closely at the end of the week, we aligned with our plan. Whatever it takes, publicize it. So measure it, publicize it, and then execute it. Do you have a plan? When are you going to get those pockets of time? We're all busy. We all got 1,000 things going. But how are you going to execute your plan? Literally look at your calendar. I've got a pocket of time here, a pocket of time here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there. I can do 2 hours at night. Make sure, along with this plan of who you're going to connect with, make sure you look at your calendar and you block out those time frames so that you can ensure execution of what you're going to do for the week. That's going to reinforce this commitment. If I'm measuring it, I'm publicizing it, and I'm executing it, I got a whole lot higher probability that my commitment's going to stay strong. I am going to take, so that hopefully that little tidbit that came from, John Maxwell. This is his book. I read this book 18 years ago, and I'm going back through it again. John Maxwell is known, for a lot of you got invited to hear Maxwell speak. We're having these speakers based on the people who qualify their business get invited to these speaking engagements. John Maxwell is one of them. He's renowned for his writing and speaking on leadership. And so I am so enjoying this book the second go around. With these leadership qualities. So I'm going to turn it over to Brenda now, but I want you to be thinking about this leadership of commitment. And write on your paper, on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed am I to this business? Is it starting in my heart? Do I really want this? How bad do I want this? And what am I willing to give up to do it? Have I tested my commitment based on my actions? What is my actions reflecting on my commitment? And then, am I so committed that I'm seeing doors open for achievement because I've been committed, staying committed, and will become even more committed in the future? And then the third thing, am I measuring it, or the last thing, am I measuring it, publicizing it, and executing it? So take 5 minutes after this call and really hone in on those 3 areas, and how can you make sure you've got the tools in place to keep that commitment high now and in the months to come and years to come. Okay, sorry, Brenda, I'm turning it over to you. Brenda's taken the second portion of these calls and she's reaching out to people. We want to hear from you guys. And she's got some people she's reached out to in the area of commitment. So I can't wait to hear who you're going to have speak with us.
Well, Elaine, every minute of that it's so powerful. And you're right, commitment is really critical to a successful life, to a positive life in every area. And as we were talking this morning, and we've been talking about this subject, one of the people that first came to mind in terms of commitment for both of us was Erin Vogelson. And I reached out to her, and what a blessing she is. I mean, we had such an incredible conversation this morning, and just knowing that, you know, we pray about this. I just want you to know that Elaine and I pray about you guys every day, and we are so committed to you. And it's just so cool to see the way the Lord comes in. And the Lord, before I even talked to Erin this morning, had already prepared her. She didn't even know at that point, right, what it was going to be, but told her that, you know, to get ready, that she was going to be sharing today. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Erin, for your commitment and just for what you bring to our team. So we can't wait to hear from you.
Hello, everybody, and I'm so excited and just honored to be asked to present my heart about being commitment to Juice Plus business. There are many ways we can talk about the same thing. The only difference is the channel it comes through. So I'm not saying anything you haven't heard, it's just my story. It's funny that I was reading in the chat that we do, the Voxer, when Elaine puts separating the doers from the dreamers. And I'm currently reading through Joseph's story. And for most of you all know about Joseph's story, you know, God gave him a dream in his teens. And that dream didn't manifest itself until he was in his 30s. And we could see his life and his journey through ups and downs. He went through so many different, challenges in life, but he still held on to the dream. So I just want to talk a little bit about that. So I have a dream. I know God has placed a dream to me, and my commitment is to see more people healed through either nutrition or word of encouragement. And I want to see change in my environment. And I know that God has placed that inside of my heart to make it manifest out of me. Now, when I talk about Joseph, so he had a dream. He told his brothers scorned on him. They put him in the pit. He got out of the pit. God had favor, even though he was sold into slavery. Then Potiphar's wife, he went back into jail, another pit, but he still kept his focus. And he did realize that God's hand was on him. So as we engage in our customers and even our partners, when we get the no's, or if we get the, well, I'm not really interested in working the business, I look at that as just a challenge, not to derail me off of the dream God has for me, but it made me look at myself and committed to helping myself so I can help them better. There's a couple of things I did write down. So the biggest guide as this Juice Plus business is the biggest disguise as a self-improvement course. And I say that because I look at it as building myself as well as building others up in the business as well too. a Proverbs that I really love. It says, when I trust what God has given me, because Juice Plus business is such a gift to me, and I know it's a gift to all of you all, that I have to trust the Lord with all my heart and lean not onto my own understanding. In all my ways, I acknowledge him and he shall direct my path. I say this because when we understand that everything is in the Lord's hands, when we do what we're supposed to, meaning to step out in faith, do things uncomfortable, God will show us the path. And even though it may not be the end result you wanted, it's still a step forward in the direction you want to go. So, wisdom. I always think about wisdom. In this business, wisdom is using, if we can use the tools and the resources that's already laid out, that is wisdom. And then understanding is learning the art of listening to people, learning the art of understanding people's heart. Even though when they say no, it's understanding where they're coming from. I mean, Elaine talks about this all the time, but it's really giving yourself to being wise with your time, making a plan. It says, and when we establish our plans, it's God who draws them out. So you make your plan. Do a plan. You got to have a plan, but do it with an open hand, meaning that you allow God to shift things around with your plan. You know, you may not get this customer or this partner, but they may know somebody else too. Always be positive, even when the negative come. And I think this really can catapult you. When you still are in control of your emotions, even when people tell you, no, I'm not interested, and they may do it in a way that you're like, for real, you didn't have to go that way. But anyway, it is a place for you to understand that character, God is developing character. And I say that too, because let's go back to Joseph. When he interpreted a dream for the baker and the cupbearer, he told the cupbearer, remember me when you go back to Pharaoh, right? That cupbearer forgot all about him. It took 2 years. And sometimes takes years to get that one customer or that one teammate that you really want. But when he remembered when Pharaoh had a dream and no one can interpret it, or if somebody has a problem but they remembered you, they'll come back to you. They'll come back to you. Once he got word that Joseph was the man, all Joseph had to do was shave and put on some good clothes, and he walked right into it. He was able, by God's grace, to interpret the dream. So sometimes development does take time, just like Elaine just said. But development, as you keep moving forward, one day you're going to get that customer. One day you're going to get that teammate that you always wanted. And all you have to do is just ease them right into the business because you've been developed. So thank you for this time.
Wow, wow, wow. Look at all the people clapping for you. Thank you so much, Erin. Wow, that was powerful. I mean, could we have had a better example, Elaine, of everything you shared? And now we even have a biblical endorsement to publicize, right?
That was so good. That was awesome.
Thank you, Erin. Whoa, what a blessing that was. There's really nothing else we need to say.
Okay, so we know we've got a speaker on our team, so cat's out of the bag now. That was so good, so encouraging. Wow. All right, y'all, we're gonna wrap it up. We're right at 1 o'clock. Unless let me just ask, do we have any questions or about kind of what was shared today? Any thoughts, questions? Everybody's good? Man, I feel like we've been to church, man. We're ready to go. All right, guys. I appreciate each one of you. I appreciate the commitment to this call that you guys make every week. I mean, it is that I want to know you encourage me, and I know you encourage everyone else on this, that they see the commitment. I think of that, that verse, as iron sharpens iron, so one friend sharpens another. I feel like coming together, we sharpen each other and encourage each other simply by seeing each of us on these calls. So thanks for your commitment to the calls. Make sure you got your plan, you execute your plan, and we'll revise and talk about our plans next week. And let's take this commitment to a whole new level this week. So thanks, you guys. I appreciate y'all so much. Have an
Hey,
awesome-
Elaine.
Yeah.
Elaine,
Yeah.
if anybody is interested, I'm going to be blitzing in 15 minutes. If anybody wants to log on and blitz with me and Yvette. So for 30 minutes every single day, we blitz, and you guys are all welcome to join us if you like. 1:15.
What are you blitzing about?
What we do is we take that time to reach out to customers, potential team members. We invite them to events. We just connect with them for that 30 minutes. So we don't allow ourselves to get distracted by anything else. We just connect. We do just nothing but connecting for 30 minutes. And then after that 30 minutes is up, then we respond to them.
Now you made, I think the last time I was listening, you made a comment that you guys were inviting to an event. Are you guys going to be inviting to an event on this blitz?
What we had been doing was inviting people to Shred, which
Okay.
the Shred started today.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so if there was anybody who, just kind of lagged off and we lost communication with, we're following up with them and, just encouraging them that even if they don't have product, they can still come and preview and, maybe decide to get on next month, but we're welcoming everyone to do it with us.
All right. And I'm sitting here looking about, there's a call tonight.
There's a call tonight, and there's also the call tomorrow night too. That's
Who's
all.
on the call tomorrow night? And I'll post both of them.
It's the Tuesday night call with the three. That's one's the business and the product.
So that's a perfect event to invite to.